Hello and welcome back to High Impact Business. In our session today, I would like to talk about the purpose of business. I went into business because I like business. It's innovative, it's competitive, it's relational, it's productive. I didn't go into business because I wanted to change the world. And I don't think most of us do. I'm constantly asking people, why are they in business? And here are the standard answers I get. Well, I inherited it. I invented this widget and it really took off. I got fired. I needed to do something. A whole host of different reasons why people go into business. But the answer I don't normally get, and I rarely hear, is that I'm going to change the world. Most people think business is about making money. So I think it typically becomes a foregone conclusion that we're in business to make money, to maximize the bottom line. So is there a reason for being in business besides just making money? I believe there is, and I think it's called flourishing. If we are to flourish, I think it really requires three necessities of life, and I think these are spelled out in Genesis 2:15 through 18. The first thing we all need is material provision: food, clothing, shelter, and a little bit of walking around cash. In verse 15 of chapter 2, it says, God put man in the garden to work. Work is a sacred thing. Work is one way we worship God, and the result of work is material provisions. We happen to call this economic wealth or economic capital. The second thing we all need is great relationships. In verse 18, it tells us it's not good for man to be alone. We need deep, authentic relationships. It starts with your family, your spouse, your kids, and it moves on to close friends and coworkers and fellow church members. I think it ultimately plays itself out in safe, vibrant, healthy communities. We call this relational thriving, social capital. And the last thing we all need is a purpose for living. In verse 16 and 17, God laid out the first commandment to man, a moral code, as it were. He said, don't eat of the fruit of that tree, because then you will know the difference between good and evil. Ultimately, man ate the fruit, choosing to become his own moral authority, and that all didn't turn out so well. But thanks to God's graciousness, we can be redeemed by the work of Christ on the cross, allowing us to live flourishing lives. We call this spiritual capital. You see, spiritual capital is the principles, the rule of law, the moral code created by this personal relationship with Jesus that guides us in creating economic and social capital. Let's take a look at the three critical elements that allow us to really flourish. The first is economic capital. You see, economic capital is the economic benefit derived from one's life. I like to use the acrostic LIFE, L-I-F-E, your labor, influence, financial resources, and expertise. You put those together and it creates economic benefit. Economic capital is essential. Without it, you will die. You can live 3 days without water and maybe 30 days without food. Economic capital creation, I think, is commanded. In Genesis 1:28, it tells us to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. And I think economic capital is created by work. Material provisions are a result of working, but it's important to understand your work is not your purpose. Work is your platform God has given you to live out your purpose. Work is worship, but don't worship your work. And I would tell you that the currency of economic capital is money. Money is this amazing tool of modern economic practices that allow us to convert our time, talent, and treasure into another readily acceptable asset that allows us to buy food, pay rent, pay taxes, and to send blessings to people that are thousands of miles away. It's an amazing thing. So here is the one question for those of us who are in business as it relates to economic capital. How do you allocate the financial bottom line? Do we retain it in the business? Do we pay it out in stockholder dividends, or do we give it away? Let's take a minute and talk about the attributes of social capital. Social capital is the mutual benefits derived by a group of like-minded people pursuing a common cause. Think of work, family, church. These are like-minded groups of people pursuing a common cause. Social capital can only be created through authentic friendships. Social capital is required if we are to live in thriving communities. Social capital is essential for creating economic capital. People do business with people they like and trust. Social capital requires trust. It requires shared rules, shared culture, and these create this like-mindedness that is so essential. And the currency of social capital is time. You can't have deep, authentic relationships without spending time with your spouse, your kids, your customers, your friends. So here's the key question for creating social capital in our business. How do we love our team members, our customers, and our vendors as we love ourselves? Because I think only then can we have an authentic relationship that will benefit all of us. Lastly, let's take a look at the attributes of spiritual capital. Spiritual capital is simply the belief system or the religious practices that define and determine a society's moral code. For those of us who are believers, it's a personal relationship with Jesus and a commitment to living by the precepts in His Word. Spiritual capital is essential for freedom because it drives self-governance. Without self-governance, a community can't exist. When you remove God's moral code from a society, it creates a moral vacuum. And then G-O-D often gets replaced with G-O-V, government. And when you have more government, you have more rules, you have more regulation, and less freedom. Spiritual capital sets the rules for creating economic and social capital. Think how great the world would be if people would simply live by the 10 Commandments. Don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat, don't covet. If we would simply do that, I think we would alleviate 90% of the social issues we face today. And the currency of social capital is faith. And that is the best way to demonstrate our faith is by not what we say, but what we do. People know. I think many people know. Some people believe, few people do. The key question for us in business is then this. How do we share our faith with all of our stakeholders, our employees, our customers, our vendors, and our shareholders? In summary, if business is to be a creator of flourishing, these are the 3 questions we need to answer. The economic question, how do we allocate the financial bottom line? The social question, how do we love our neighbor as we love ourselves? And the spiritual question, how do we share our faith in a winsome way? I love the parable of the Good Samaritan because I think it is a great example of how we should do business. As you remember in the story, a traveler had been beaten, robbed, and left for dead beside the road. The spiritual leaders, the priest and the Levite, came along, and it says they walked around him. They actually went out of their way to avoid him. And I'm sure they were thinking, probably just as you and I often think, if this guy would just get Jesus, everything would be fine. But the Good Samaritan came along, he befriended him, social capital, and took him to the hotel and paid for his stay, economic capital. You see, the moral of the story is this. We should lead with economic capital, give people a good job, then follow with social capital, become a good friend, and then guess what happens? The doors to sharing spiritual capital fly open. We have seen this work time and time again in our business. But doing this is going to require you to take some economic, relational, and spiritual risk. Do not be afraid of investing money, time, and your faith in those with whom you work. We'll see you next time.